Welcome back. Is Calcharo Yinlin actually OP? Let's find out. Now, in case you aren't familiar with Yinlin and Calcharo, the two are talked about together for very good reason. Both are Electro, Calcharo is Giga Chad Sephiroth, and Yinlin needs a partner to complement her outro buffs with. Enter Calcharo, who is not only a super damage dealer, but also wants to be on field for as long as possible so he can deal a load of damage. The perfect pair, right? But before we talk about how these two play well together, let's talk about how people are actually playing WutheringWaves right now. In the current state of the game, there are a couple ways to approach combat. Use your skills off cooldown, make sure to dodge and don't get hit. The possibilities are endless, but there are things worth looking into and guiding your gameplay towards if you actually want to squeeze out more damage. But before we go any further, just as a reminder, feel free to play as you like or however you choose to have fun with it. That being said, one common playstyle in WutheringWaves right now is to pick 1 or 2 damage dealers followed by a buffer or a support, and to maximize the damage dealt by your resonators, you want to line up your damage increasing buffs alongside said DPS. Sounds simple enough, and that translates usually to something like beginning combat with your support, getting their outro effect as soon as possible, swapping to the secondary damage dealer, getting their outro out as quickly as possible, and ending with your main field DPS, who unloads an insane amount of damage, and then rinsing and repeating. You get the idea though. Buff, do damage, and then profit. This can sometimes be called a hyper carry or one carry team composition, and is more common when taking a team like Verena, Baiji, and a single DPS. The Mortefi Gion team is pretty famous for this despite Mortefi's somewhat high DPS honestly, but it's balanced out mostly because Gion's damage is absolutely insane and he's really the star of the show when it comes to dealing damage in the Gion Mortefi team comp. But teams like Calcharo Yinlin, or even a composition like Danjin Rover, actually fall under a different category. This is something known as a multi or double DPS composition, which makes sense based off of the name. The way you play this style is pretty similar to the way that you would start off the hypercarry team. The main difference is that it does just involve a second character who does do equal damage to or a significant damage relative to your other DPS, and a big strength of this style is the fact that you're able to make use of something called quick swapping, which is an advanced strat that we'll go over in a little bit. Swapping off of a character when they have to spend a lot of time in a specific animation so it becomes shorter is actually one of the main values to doing something like quick swapping. But it also helps that some characters have short periods where they do have a lot of burst damage and want to swap off to another resonator so that they can wait for their long cooldowns to come back up. But now let's get a bit more specific when it comes to Yinlin and Calcharo. First, I'll describe and break down a more straightforward rotation for these two, but keep in mind that these characters have been rated and are generally seen as much stronger when you are playing them optimally and with advanced tactics. Regardless of which support, healer, or third character that you end up picking with this team, the rotation remains mostly the same. Start with the support or buffer to build Concerto energy, and then unload all skills and their outro in order to buff Yinlin when you end up swapping to her. Once on Yinlin, activate her skill to enhance the rest of your attacks, use her Resonance Liberation to apply Sinner's Marks on all enemies, then slam her heavy or basic attacks until you can transform her Sinner's Marks to Punishment with a Max Forte Circuit heavy attack. Follow this by activating the second part of Yinlin's skill or just using Yinlin's outro effect, and then swap in Calcharo to begin doing big damage. Calcharo's game plan from this point looks like the following. Activate his Resonance Liberation immediately, which puts him into Deathblade gear state, and then use his basic attack until he has enough killing intent, aka passive stacks, to use Death Messenger after a heavy attack, and that's it. If you want to make things even simpler, just press Resonance Liberation, left click 5 times, then hold down on left click to activate a heavy attack, and then activate Death Messenger. Repeat this for as many times as you can before your ultimate wears off, and after it has, repeat this process with your support Yinlin and Calcharo to do big damage with Calcharo. Now there are optimizations to this, like swap canceling certain animations or quick swapping between skills so that every skill gets used as often as possible, but that is a lot to take in and honestly more difficult to play, although it will give you a lot more DPS. The main strength behind this composition is having a super high damage dealer that is complemented by a powerful Electro buffer who also happens to deal a lot of good damage. Calcharo's main damage source is liberation damage, and with Yinlin boosting that and his matching attribute, it's a no-brainer for why you would pair the two together. As I mentioned from the how to play section, she also doesn't really need to spend that much time on field, since she can just rush to get her punishment mark, and then get her outro effect and swap. A DPS paired with another damage dealer that buffs every aspect of his kit though? What could be so wrong about this pairing? Well, the first problem that we have to address is that our understanding of how strong Calcharo and Yinlin are is outdated. Calcharo did get nerfed in terms of his damage multipliers and his energy regeneration, and this, on top of other changes made between closed beta 2 and release, does really affect how strong the characters are. The reason that these changes matter as well is because most of the hype and analysis surrounding the duo was primarily with pre-release in mind. Calcharo's damage multipliers and energy generation were both higher than what they are now. And another big change from CBT2 to release was that outro effects stayed or affected characters so long as the model of the character was still on field, but that is no longer the case. This change affected all characters after it went live with WutheringWaves' release, but Calcharo specifically benefited a lot from Yinlin being able to do this, especially because Yinlin not only boosted his Resonance Liberation, but also his attribute as well. Now, to be clear, this change doesn't really affect those who choose to play him very casually. But as I mentioned before, a big part of the reason why he was rated so highly on tier lists is specifically because people were playing optimally and finding new techs to kind of push the boundaries when it came to his playstyle. To showcase just how much you gain by adding advanced tricks into his rotation, by the way, here's a calculation courtesy of Prideman, thank you again, between an optimized and unoptimized rotation. The numbers themselves will of course change based on buffs, team compositions, and which enemies you're fighting, but you get the idea. With these outro effect changes reducing his total damage, the overall nerfs to his damage plus energy generation, and the fact that you do need to be decently skilled and experienced with him all contribute to a weaker showing than what most people were expecting at the end of closed beta 2. As a final note, though skill issues should not always dictate whether a character is good or bad, it is worth mentioning here since many agree that Yinlin Calcharo especially are strongest when you are experienced or when you are a very good player, knowing a lot of these special techniques, tips, or tricks to make him go above and beyond. But on the topic of how strong they are, what if there were other character pairings that also worked well with Yinlin? Well, enter Rover and Encore. I'll be brief with this section, but I do think there is value in discussing alternatives to Calcharo, especially if you're on the fence about investing in him. If you aren't familiar with these two characters already, they are the new gods/goddesses of damage, and it's for good reason. Before we get into that though, Yinlin's current ideal game plan by herself revolves around her unloading big damage and then buffing another damage dealer. And wow, look at that, Encore and Rover can make use of it. Now, despite the two not being able to make use of the attribute damage increase, they both have short burst rotations while also benefiting from Yinlin's liberation damage increases. Be aware that instead, they boast some of the highest damage numbers of all characters in WutheringWaves. Of course, highest damage doesn't immediately mean that these characters are the best, no question asked, but it does mean good things if you're looking for a high damage replacement to Calcharo. I would also like to mention that Rover specifically is free and you do get free sequences just for playing the game, but whether that should actually affect you choosing to build Rover over Calcharo is completely up to you. Ultimately, there are a lot of reasons to love Yinlin and Calcharo, don't get me wrong, but there are equally as many concerns that players should have when thinking about investing in Calcharo specifically. Unfortunately, they aren't the same characters that most people thought they were back in CBT2, and especially if you aren't playing them at the top level, they're just gonna suffer in performance. Through every nerf or change to a system that has affected Calcharo's results, his value has continued to drop more and more, but that isn't to say that he can't be amazing, especially if you know what you're doing. Side note, I have personally cleared 11 out of 12 stars on Tower of Adversity using Calcharo and Yinlin together. However, that is with the current advantage towards Electro characters, and therefore his actual potential is probably a little bit lower unless if the tower is suited to him. So no, at the end of it all, I would not call Yinlin Calcharo OP, especially with potential alternatives. And considering the nerfs and how well you have to play him to make him feel like a god, I definitely think that people should be reevaluating exactly how strong the character is and go from there. Anyways, guys, that's gonna be it for this video. If you made it this far, thank you for watching. Hope you learned something. If you did, make sure to like, comment, turn on the notification bell, and subscribe. Let me know what you think about Calcharo Yinlin, what you think of this specific kind of topic or video idea. If you want to see more, feel free to let me know in the comment section. Thanks again for watching, guys. As always, make sure to check out the rest of my socials if you want to keep up to date or find out what I'm doing when it comes to WutheringWaves or anything else. Thanks, and I will see you on the next one. Stay safe, stay healthy. Good night. Haha, YouTube would really like you to press this button on this video. They think you would like this one. I think you would like it too, because you're here for WutheringWaves, probably, right? Or maybe not, I don't know, but I think you would like this button. Yeah, you should click on this video. Click on this one. Yeah, you can click on it now. You don't have to stay here any longer. Click on the next one. See ya.